Hey everybody, I have been challenged to do a video series. I'm just teaching. It's like kind of some food for thought. And so today I'm just going to break down two verses, Psalm chapter 18 verses 1 and 2. So if you want to follow along with me, we're going to start in verse 1. Verse 1 says very succinctly, a psalm of David, "I will love you, O Lord, my strength." The very first thing that David says is, "I will love you, O Lord, my strength." That word love implies that he had a choice. We all have choices that we can make. We choose what we're going to do. We choose if we're going to get up in the morning and go to work. We choose if we're going to stay up really late at night or if we're going to go to bed. We choose if we're going to read the Bible. The biggest choice that we have that we can make is choosing to love the Lord. Now you might say, well, Kristen, that's kind of a dumb thing. I'm a Christian, I follow God. But listen, you still have to make that choice of whether or not you're going to say, "I will love you, O Lord." It's not always easy. Sometimes we're on a mountaintop and everything's going great, and we don't necessarily think that we might need God at the moment. And then there's the times when we're in the middle of the valley and we are like Job and we say we've looked to our right and looked to the left, we look in front of us, we look behind us, but God, I can't find you anywhere. But we still have to make that choice that says, "I will love you, O Lord." And here's something else that's really, really important that we really need to get a handle on. When we say, "I will love you, O Lord," and we make that acknowledgement of who God is, we have to make sure that our words, the things that we're saying, and our actions align, because there is nothing more confusing to someone who is not a Christian than a Christian who doesn't have their act together. And I'm not saying that you have to be perfect. I'm saying that if you're going to say that you're a Christian, you need to make sure that your words and your actions are in line with each other and that you're not contradicting yourself. The things that God tells you will never contradict what God says in His Word. God is not a man that he should lie, Numbers 23:19 says. And so we have to understand who God is, and we have to understand the character of our mind, because you need to understand one thing. Satan uses your mind as his battlefield, and there is nothing that he wants to do more than to steal, kill, and destroy. That's what he's come to do. It says, the word says that he is as a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. He's as a roaring lion. He is not a roaring lion, but he appears to be a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. And if you don't understand God and you don't understand the character of God, you will be one of his victims. You have that choice. You have to make the choice day in and day out, whether you're in the valley or you're on a mountaintop. That be like David saying, "I will love you, O Lord." And he says, "my strength," understanding that personal possessive pronoun, my, and you're going to see it everywhere in verses 1 and 2. David used that so often because for David, the Lord was a personal God. Is the Lord a personal God for you, or is he just the creator of the universe? Somebody who kind of set things into motion. Personally, God is my God. Just like these little kids, and it's so cute when they say, "Well, my mommy said," or "my daddy," because they understand that relationship that they have. And that's why they use that word, my. It's a possessive pronoun. It's a possessive relationship that they have. And we need to have that possessive relationship with God. My God, my Father, my strength. Like David was saying, he said, "I will love you, O Lord, my strength." David was a warrior. David could go out and he could align an army and he could defeat his enemies, but he understood where his strength came from. Our strength as Christians doesn't come from anything in and of ourselves. It comes from knowing who God is and understanding his word and taking his word and using it to defeat the enemy. Understanding that that alone is our strength and it's nothing else. Let's go on and look and see what he says in verse 2. David said, and understand this is just a series of descriptors of who David saw that God was. And God is everything that you could ever need at any stage for any circumstance that you go through in your life. There is nothing that God is not, and there is nothing that God cannot do for you. And for David at this point in time, he knew who God was, and he knew that he was everything that he needed. And he says, "The Lord is my rock." In order for the Lord to be anything else to David, he had to first be that strong foundation, that immovable foundation. If God is not your immovable foundation, he can't be anything else to you. That's the very first thing that God has to be for you, is that rock, that immovable foundation. And then beyond that, David said, and beyond just being my rock, my immovable foundation, you're my fortress. You're the place that I fight from. God was the place that we fight from. He is the place that we fight from, but that place that we fight from is built upon that immovable foundation, knowing that it can never be destroyed. When we build our lives upon God, it doesn't matter what's going to come our way. It will never destroy us. We might slip and we fall, but we will not be utterly cast down, because the hand of God is under us. And that hand of God will always be there to lift us up. But he says, he is my fortress. He's that place that I fight from. And then he says, and not only is he my rock, my immovable foundation, and my fortress, the place that I fight from, he also says that he is my deliverer. Oh, the greatest thing in the world is knowing that there's an end to bad times. And God says that he is your deliverer. And God is not a man that he should lie. And it's right there in verse 2 of chapter 18 of the Psalms. He said, he is my rock and he's my fortress. But above and beyond that, he's my deliverer. There is an end to your pain. There is an end to your trials. There is an end to the things that you are going through. And understand that God has not brought you into a valley to leave you there. You just need to keep walking and keep putting one foot in front of the other and just keep going. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and remember that. He is your deliverer. There is an end to this situation. And he goes further, and once again, you notice that everything that he says about God is preceded by the word my. We have to have that personal relationship with God in order to be able to claim these things. He says he's my rock, he's my fortress, he's my deliverer. And then he once again says he's my God. He's the only person that's worthy of the worship. He's the only person that is worthy of us continuing to follow after. And he says he's my strength. And he just reiterated what he said in verse 1, because it was that important. It's that important to understand where your strength comes from. And David the warrior understood that. And he said, it's in him whom I will trust. And he is my buckler. Now I love this. Buckler. A buckler is something that would have been worn on the forearm. Going into battle, it was one of those shields that would have been right on that forearm. And that forearm always went before them into battle. And if that was the thing that went before them into battle, then think of it that way. God is always going before you. He is always walking ahead of you. And if you are following after God, he will always go into that battle in front of you, just like that buckler, that shield that was worn on that forearm. I love that word. Ever since I understood what a buckler actually was, I love thinking about the fact that every time I go into battle, God has gone in before me. And because that buckler was attached to the arm, that it would never leave me. God is your buckler. He is a shield that's all around you, that he goes before you, but he will never leave you or forsake you. And he says, and the horn of my salvation. Now there's a lot of things that a horn could be. A horn on an animal is something that they use to fight against their enemies. A horn could also be the peak, the summit of something. A horn is an instrument. It was something that marked, that they often used to mark going into battle. A horn could be a lot of things, and he says that he is the horn of my salvation. He is the summit of everything that you could ever need in the middle of your salvation, of who he is. He alone is your salvation, nothing else. And it says, and my high tower. He is your high tower. And what I love about that is the fact that in the middle of all of the battle, there is that high place. And if they were in the middle of a war, they would probably want to send somebody to the highest place that they could find so they could scope it out, see where their enemies were, or make a plan so that if they needed to escape, they would know where to go, to see where the obstacles are. God is your high tower. He knows what lies ahead. He knows what the circumstances are that are going to be coming against you, even though you might never be able to see them. God sees everything. He knows the beginning from the end and all the circumstances in between that you can't see. And so sometimes when He takes you on a path that looks like it is wandering and that it has no purpose or a plan and you don't understand it, know it's because He is your high tower and He sees things that you cannot see. He sees the struggles that would have come up ahead, and the things that maybe you weren't ready to fight, or the way around might have been faster or better for you than just going right through the middle of the valley, right through the middle of something that could have caused you immediate harm. God is your high tower, knowing that He will always prepare you for what's coming ahead, and He will always go before you because He's that buckler. But the bottom line is that He is your rock. He is that immovable foundation, and if you have God as your immovable foundation, your rock, know that He can also be all of those other things and everything that you could ever need at any point in time. So go ahead and read through it again, chapter 18 of Psalms, verses 1 and 2, and just chew on that.